You are listening to the Brand Architect Podcast, and this is your host, Ani Alexander.
Hey, hello there, and welcome back to the Brand Architect Podcast, the podcast that will help you establish your brand and grow your online audience. It's me, Annie Alexander. I'm really grateful that you're back, that you're listening to the show. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your attention. Thank you very much. And today I'm bringing in another interview. This time, again, it will be about branding, about establishing your brand, about finding your niche and becoming authority in that niche. So we will be covering many interesting topics. You will find out how to approach the niching down process, how to find the best niche for you, and how to make sure that your brand stands out among the rest. So hopefully you'll enjoy the interview. Let's dive straight into it. Okay, so hello everyone and welcome to the Brand Architect Podcast. Today I'm talking to Amanda Watts. She's one of the very few interviewees whom I actually met live, which doesn't happen very often, but it's really nice to talk to someone you know in real life. It's a different feeling. So Amanda is from the UK. She's one of the UK's leading marketing authorities. And she started her business while on housing benefit and took it to multiple six figures, which means that she knows what she talks about. She's not really from those people who teach how to make money by teaching how to make money, which is really, really great. And she basically helps businesses and entrepreneurs become more visible in the marketplace, become authorities in their niche, and grow their brands. So I'm really happy you're completely down our alley. You're exactly the person we need on the podcast. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, darling.
Okay, so I really, I touched a little bit about your story and where you're coming from, but can you tell a little bit how you got there and, the story behind of where you are now?
Absolutely. So in 2009, I was a single mum, two children aged 5 and 8, and I had to make a decision. I'd just come out of a really horrible relationship and found myself with no money. We had no furniture, no money, nothing at all. So we managed to get housing benefit, and I'm super grateful that I had that start. And what I had to do was make a decision. Do I go back to the corporate world and work full time, which was perfectly doable. I could have gone back and got a job, or do I try and create a business around my children so that I can take them to school, I can pick them up from school, I can have a life with my children and try and fix what we'd been through in the previous few years, because it was quite horrific what we'd been through. And I decided actually it was the latter I needed to do. I couldn't go back to work and, leave the house at 6 o'clock in the morning and come back at 8 o'clock at night and have no relationship with my babies. So I started my own business. And actually what I did is I based it on something I knew I could do with my eyes closed, which was copywriting. So I started my business writing blogs for people, writing newsletters for people. But oh my gosh, I struggled. Literally, the way I got clients was to go out networking. I'd go out breakfast networking, lunch networking. I was spending £10-20 a time talking to people who weren't necessarily my ideal clients, but felt I was doing something to grow my business. But I was stuck earning about £400 a month. So what I did was spend a lot of time learning from other people on YouTube, on their blogs, just going to events where key people were speaking. And what happened was I found a guy who could teach you how to grow your business. So I went and joined his program. This is now 2012, and learned a lot from him. And it was all about positioning yourself in the industry. And we decided that, I was on my own at the time, I decided that I needed to change what I was doing. I couldn't carry on being a copywriter. And at this stage, I was also teaching people about social media. So I found a niche and launched a marketing business business, because I was actually giving so much marketing information away for free anyway, what you often find is that people give away what they are meant to be doing for free because they love it.
Yeah.
And their sweet spot, they don't see what their sweet spot is. So they start a business around something they think they should be doing, but actually their sweet spot they end up talking about anyway. And this has a lot to do with their story that gets them to where they are. But I then built quite a good, successful business with the restaurant trade. And I was doing marketing for restaurants. It was a consultancy business. It's actually how I met my husband now. He was one of my clients, so that was quite cool.
Yeah.
And then I realized actually that, again, it was hard work working with restaurants. They didn't have a great deal of money. So very quickly, I repositioned myself in the marketplace using what you and I call authority marketing. So I was creating lots of blogs. I was writing 1 or 2 blogs a day at this time about marketing. And I built my business through that. So I did a lot of content marketing, and I went out and taught people how to grow their business using marketing this way, specializing in building a niche. And literally, I would do it for them. So I would do their social media, I would write their content. Then I got some help, and I had a team underneath me. So it was more of a consultancy than me being a coach. And then my husband now, who was one of my clients, ended up coming into the business. And now the two of us run the business together, and we specialize in helping people find their niche and then becoming the authority in their niche. And it's great, and it's absolutely lovely. And I got off housing benefit in 2013, and that was amazing. That was my number one thing, is how can I earn a couple of £1,000s a month to get off housing benefit? And then we've grown since then. So that was my number one goal, is earning a couple of grand a month. And then it was growing it from there.
Oh, it's a very inspiring story, because over and over again, I've had more than 160 guests up to now. And over again, all these success stories start with some kind of failure or something that happened in life. And most of them ended up in where they are accidentally, because they just had to solve an issue which was really pressing and urgent. So
that's right.
So I guess it was a blessing in disguise. At that point, most probably you didn't realize that.
Oh, absolutely. Every day I think about what I've been through, and I'm very spontaneous, and I make very quick decisions, which sometimes my downfall also helps me to grow a business. But every day I look at myself and go, oh, everything I've been through has led me to where I am today, and I'm super grateful for that. It's pretty amazing. I could be working in London in the city and be super stressed, whereas it doesn't happen in my business, so it's great.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine. It's like when you're looking at rush hour, if you are in a tube at rush hour, it's just, the things you see, it's
exactly. The gratitude washes over you, going it's every day. I'm so lucky.
Absolutely. Okay, so in that case, let's do this in this episode. Let's try to move a person who is in a situation, well, maybe not so dramatic as yours, but who is in the starting stage, and try to move him forward and help him understand what he needs to do. So I guess the starting point, you mentioned it several times, was finding a niche and finding your sweet spot. And many people get stuck right straight away in that very early stage. So how they should approach that? I mean, many people, if they are especially like me, have various of interests who are, different things they would like to do, and have trouble, selecting just one and sticking to that one. So how do you make sure that, what do you think about while you're trying to choose that one niche you want to work at?
Okay, so a couple of things with regards to finding a niche. First of all, it is commonly said out there, find a niche around your passion. Now, I do agree with this, but I also don't agree with this. And what I mean by this is, one of my clients, I'm going to talk a lot about a lady called Alexandra Mereshoyu, because she is a great case study to help people whilst we're talking. Okay, so she came to me, and she is actually the UK karate champion for karate, and she is trying to get into the Olympics right now. That is her passion in her life. She loves karate. She's a 3rd Dan black belt. She lives and breathes it 3 days a week. She teaches it 1 day a week. That's everything that she does is about karate. She came to me as a personal trainer and was working for Virgin, and she wanted to leave working in a gym and actually start her own business. And when we sat down, we were like, what are your passions? And she was like, well, I like running, I like the outdoors, and I love karate. Now, what would have been really simple would be, oh, well, let's create a business around karate. But that would have been a mistake, because if you live and breathe your passions, what you find is that you can fall out of love with your business, and that means that you lose the things that you enjoy in life, which is your passions. So although I say create a business around your passions, I wouldn't say create a business around your hobbies. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So the first thing that you need to do is look at something that you really enjoy and that you stand behind. So where you have an opinion on something and that you want to share with the world. So I talk a lot about standing on Speaker's Corner. So in Hyde Park in London, there's this place called Speaker's Corner where you can literally just go and stand there and rant at the world for 10 minutes or half an hour. So what would you rant at the world about? What do you truly believe in? That's one thing. The second thing is you have to be kind of talented at it. So you might want to rant about the economics in the world, but you might not be good at economics. So don't start a business around that. You have to be talented at what you want to start your business in. And thirdly, then this is something that you and I have both been through. We were talking about it before the podcast. You've got to make sure people can pay you. So you have to provide a service or a product that people, your ideal clients, are happy to pay you. So when you find a niche, that's what you need to do. And what we did with Alex actually is we said, right, she loves exercising outdoors. So what we're going to do is create a business around exercising outdoors, getting fit outdoors, so that she can weave her passions into it, but also the kind of people that she attracts are people who need to get outdoors and lose their stress. So that's how we came up with her niche. And that's what I would love your listeners to look at is, what do they enjoy? What are they good at? What will people pay for? And try that niche. Now, there's one more tip here as well. The best way to find a niche is to write about it. So write about something every day, write blogs, not necessarily ones that you want to get out into the world, but start sharing your opinions with a piece of paper or speaking into your phone and recording it, because clarity comes through getting it out of your head and not worrying about it inside your head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Makes sense. Totally.
Yeah. And one thing that Alex did is she wrote over 200 blogs in the first year that she created her business with me. And by the end of that, she'd pivoted what she was doing, because the more she wrote, the clearer she got. So she was quite wishy-washy with her niche when she started, but she got clearer and clearer as the year went by.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense because with the time you start gaining audience and getting feedback from them, so you know it's easier to understand what they really need, as opposed to making assumptions. Because in the very beginning, you may end up with assumptions only, right?
Absolutely. And I call it a phantom avatar. So a phantom avatar is someone that you have in your mind that you really want to help, that has a problem that you really want to help overcome because you really enjoy helping them with it. But actually, this person doesn't exist. And the worst thing that you can do is create a phantom avatar.
Okay. Yeah, I see. So once you have selected your niche, I have this problem with actually people being really like each other and doing the same things in the same way, which totally irritates me because it feels like they're coming out of the same incubator. Yeah. So obviously we all are different. We all have different things that we could use in unique way, but many people don't really realize what their unique point or the special or different angle could be in order to differentiate in the same niche. So how do you look at that? Do you sort of do an inventory of other people and see what they are doing in the niche, and then inventory of yourself, and then come up with something that differentiates? Or how do you approach that part? Because I think it's very important.
I'm not a fan of going out and watching what other people are doing. You end up doing what I call shiny syndrome. And you look at what other people are doing and go, oh, they're doing really well, I'm going to do that. Oh, they're doing really well, I'm going to do that. Oh, wow, they've done this, I'm going to copy them. And what happens is then you're not authentic to you. And I don't want to go down the authenticity route and how you have to be authentic to you. But what I do want to highlight is you have all the answers inside you. Your best bet is to speak to as many different people as you can and find out what their pains are. Maybe start working with at a reduced price of where you want to position yourself. So, start doing some, if you're a coach or a consultant, start doing that for free, or getting into short conversations with people and working out the kind of people that you like to work with and the problems you enjoy overcoming. So there are 4 ways to niche. One is not niche at all, which is generalist. Then you've got horizontal niching, where you help overcome a problem. You've got vertical niching, where you actually help a person overcome a broad problem. Or you've got what I call a micro niche, where you've got a specific person and a specific problem that you help overcome. Now, the Holy Grail is a micro niche. Because it's really easy to market around that, and it's really easy to do brand positioning and raising your profile around a micro niche. But as long as you're not a generalist, you can start with a horizontal or a vertical niche. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it totally makes sense.
Good.
So, so basically, we chose the niche. We went to ourselves, and our own ways and our own comfort zones of the things that we want to cover and the way we want to do that. Now, once you start creating content, there is this place where in the very beginning, we are not so sure that people see us. At some point, in the very beginning, we are sort of invisible. When you are creating your personal brand and no one knows about you yet, obviously you need to get the traction and you need to get this first visibility, at least, to move forward later on. So how do you approach that part when no one knows you and no one really cares, let's be honest? How do you make sure that you gain the visibility and people start learning about you, that, at least about the fact that you exist and this is what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that, first of all, you can post your first ever blog and one person could read it and it could change their lives. So although we want to become the go-to person in our niche, although we want to stand out head and shoulders above all of our competitors, if we approach building our profile with actually we're only going to touch a few lives, but if I can just change the life of one person with this blog, then it's done its job. So don't make it about you, make it about who you can help. That way you'll write better content as well and create much better content. But what I would say is I've got this thing which I call a one blog marketing plan. So you can write a blog or you can write a video. It doesn't matter. But what you do is you create this one blog and then you make sure that it is visible everywhere. You put it on your website. You make sure you have a social media platform that you are using regularly. So that might be Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn. And then you don't forget about the other ones. So you just make sure that your information is going out on the internet everywhere as much as you can. LinkedIn is phenomenal because you can put articles straight up to it direct. It is at the beginning, you just feel like all you are doing is being a publishing house. And like I said, with Alexandra, she created 200 blogs in the first year. And literally by the end of it, she's like, oh, Amanda, I am so bored. And I was like, yes. Did you get clients? And she's like, yes. And I got clarity and I had to do it. And some days when I wanted to go to bed, I couldn't because I hadn't finished what I was doing. So it's about looking at the long-term benefits of it and just getting it out there. And you have to be a content machine. And I mean machine.
Yeah, I see. So what is, you mentioned that you need to, besides the fact that obviously you have to create the content, you also have to make sure that you promote it on social media. So what is this ratio between creation and promotion in your, in your opinion?
So what I would say, I think on the FreedomPreneur Business Academy website, I've probably got about 150 videos or blogs. On Twitter, twice an hour, we promote those blogs.
Uh-huh.
Okay, that's a lot. That's a lot more than a lot of people have the confidence to do. But I have been running my Twitter account since 2009, I think I started. I've got something like 15,000 followers on it. And I've built those followers not through making connections and saying, hello, my name's Amanda, great to meet you, but through sharing valuable content. So if you are writing great content, then get it out onto Twitter. If you have the guts, which is, it is about having guts, if you can do that twice an hour and share your blogs and your past blogs, that would be amazing. On Facebook, I make sure on my personal profile, I post once a day. On my business profile, it's about 3 times a week. It's not as much as I used to be. I used to be a couple of times a day. The other thing as well is as you grow, you don't need to do as much. It's definitely in foundation stage where you need to be creating a lot and sharing a lot. LinkedIn might be 3 times a week. I write a blog. When I first did my LinkedIn, I wrote a blog every single day. Okay. So it's about also using your old content. So things that I wrote in 2009, a lot of it I've pulled down because it's not what I want it to be. But what I do is I pull it down, I reword it, and then put it back up as new content. So I'm not having to think all the time. I'm just making what I've written even better every single time.
Okay, I totally get that. So, one thing, I'm sure you will agree with me that having a clear message in your positioning is very important. And that is the message and the topics around that message that you will be eventually covering when you are working in your niche and when you are positioning yourself as a brand. So, that part is very important, but at the same time, when you start becoming known, you end up getting coverage. You're invited to more podcasts. You have been interviewed a lot, and people write about you. And you have more people to meet and talk about what you're doing. So how do you make sure that this message, which is the same consistent message, stays consistent, but at the same time you don't become redundant by saying the same things over and over again?
Yeah, so when I go on different podcasts, what I do is I find out a little bit about the audience. So I make sure that I'm speaking about the right things to the right audience. So I was interviewed by a gentleman called Michael Serwer, who's he's positioned himself very well in the life coaching industry, and he is the highest paid life coach in the UK. And I went on his couch. He had the Michael Serwer show, and I was talking about how to actually grow an already successful business. It wasn't talking about startups, whereas I'm sharing my story about how I started and how my clients start by being on the podcast with you. So it's about understanding your audience and who's listening and who's watching what you're doing. And you can tweak what you say and choose different parts of your story, different parts of your advice, different parts of your thinking, and tailor it for the audience. There's no point in throwing mud and hoping some of it will stick. Make sure that you're tailoring your audience, your content for the right audience, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally makes sense. So you mentioned that you have to be a content machine.
Yeah.
That will help you position yourself as well as grow your initial audience and grow it further later on. So once you do have an audience, how do you approach engaging with them and creating relationships? Because I think it's very important, but many people don't really know how to approach that part. So you attract the audience. How do you keep them loyal by creating relationships?
Yeah, fantastic. So there is something that I would say 99.9% of the world don't even know exists. And this is something called conversion content. So you create content that people consume. Okay. People forget to create what I call conversion content. And conversion content is things like webinars, live events, or one-to-one calls, one-to-one conversations. And the reason why they're conversion content is because you can show your expertise, and then at the end you can say, and you've seen my framework, if you would like to work with me, either jump on a call is one way to do it, or you can say, buy my program now. So I fill my online programs through webinars. which is creating lots of content, building relationships, because I always run my webinars live. They're not churned out. I run them live. So I talk to people on the webinars, build relationships with them. They have a connection with me. And that's one of the best ways for me to get clients. You don't get clients, and I really want your listeners to understand this. You won't get clients through creating content. You get clients through having conversion content, which is the one step after you've created the blogs and the videos to drive people to your event, your webinar, or a conversation with you.
Okay, I see. So since we touched webinars, and I totally agree with you that it's a very useful tool and it's sort of very convenient in terms of creating relationships and converting at the same time.
Yeah.
But we all know those people who do webinars in a very annoying way, right? Where half of the first half of the webinar is their story and about who they are and how good and important they are, and then the second half is basically the pitch of what they are selling.
Buy my stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So, let's talk about that, because it's a way of creating content as well. So since you have been creating already loads of content before that in terms of to position your brand, we spoke about that, and then you have webinars, which should be a little bit of different type of content. So how do you make sure that you don't really that this webinar content is sort of special and different from the content you already create and distribute?
It's really interesting. I do something that I think is quite different from a lot of people in my webinars. I don't know if you've ever been to any, but what I do is I have a program, and the paid for program that I run, I say to them, right, every single month I'm going to add a new piece of content to the vault. And that vault is where they can go. So content would be things like how to run and grow a Facebook group, how to find your niche, how to build a brand, all of these things that is paid for content. This is really, really good stuff. So what I say to my clients, I'm going to do this once a month. And then what I do is I run it as a webinar. So I put out, how to grow a Facebook group. What I do is I say, right, this is for my clients. So turn up if you want to. If not, you'll find it in the vault in 48 hours. And then everybody else, I say, I'm running this for my clients. If you want to jump on in, please jump on in. If you'd like to find out more about the kind of things I teach and how deep I go with what I teach. This isn't a sales webinar, but at the end of it, I'll give you an opportunity to find out how you can work with me, because that's all I do at the end. And then for at least an hour, they're getting trained, just like my clients would get trained, because it's training for my clients. And then what I do is I've worked out, because I've measured it, that people come to 4 webinars, they've bought into the way I teach, and they go, actually, now I want to buy your program. So it works really well. I'm known for giving excellent value, and I'm not having to create content for my clients all the time and create separate webinars. They're one in exactly the same thing. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, because it feels like, you're giving them the taste of how it feels to work with you. Because
exactly.
You put them in the shoes of your clients for one webinar.
That's right.
So they get the exact same experience, so they know what to expect, and it makes total sense.
And they can see that it's not about me going buy my stuff. It's like, here, have a look. If you like what you see, A, you can action what I've taught you today, and B, if you would like to work with me, work with me. I feel really authentic when I do that. I don't feel authentic when I'm stretching people's pains and at the end go, oh, now you feel really horrible, please pay me £10,000.
Oh, yeah. That's, I mean, I'm still surprised many people buy into that, but yeah.
But that's the power of a personal brand, because if you build your personal brand through authenticity and actually you come from a good place, that's why this is so powerful, honey. That's why you and I love it so much, and we believe in it and we shout about it, because that's the key to having the success that people are looking for.
Exactly. Let's talk about this. I mean, since we touched authenticity for a while, I want to go back to that topic in a sense that I know many people who are very humble and introverts. So for them, creating a personal brand and putting themselves out there and considering themselves as a brand, as part of their product is very intimidating and sort of, feels a bit unethical for them, having the spotlight on their personality, on themselves, on their name. So what is it? I mean, there is no way getting away from that. If you want to build a brand, especially if you are, a personal brand, that's the only way to do it. But are there any ways to sort of make them feel more comfortable and less egocentric while doing it?
Absolutely. So there's two things. One, I'm an introvert. Okay. Now, people wouldn't believe it because they see me out there doing videos and being on podcasts. But what they don't realize is I'm talking about something I'm really passionate about. If you put me in a room for networking, I will be the person that when they go, oh, now it's time to do the networking, I will go to the bathroom, I will check my phone, or I will make a phone call because I find it really difficult to talk to people. So first of all, being an introvert doesn't necessarily mean that you can't create content. The other thing as well is, you have to close your eyes and jump because it's important to build your business. But the other thing is you are doing a great example of how to provide content without worrying about being too seen. So a podcast is the perfect place for an introvert to build a following. Because it's only audio and you're sharing your gift. You can have your image up. You can make sure that you've branded it beautifully because part of your profile brand is all about branding and how you show up online as well. But podcasts are fantastic. Audio is fine. Don't feel pushed into doing video straight away. I only started doing video last year and I hated it when I started. Now I become obsessed when things really work and I love measuring and testing. But when I first started it, Facebook Lives, I've only done a few of them and every time I do it, I get sweaty palms and go, oh my gosh, I've got to do this. But it doesn't mean that, it's introvert or extrovert. Extroverts find it easier, but introverts find a way. So please don't be scared. If we've got introverts listening, a little bit, start writing, then do audio. And one day you will feel strong enough to do video because you will be so passionate about what you're speaking about and you'll be so crystal clear that will help you overcome the fear of being seen.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree with you because when I launched the podcast, it was almost 3 years ago. I sort of... I was never on videos before and I hated that and I thought I would never be. So no one saw me on video for the first year and a half. But then, as you say, you start slow and you eventually get there. So it's not a rocket science.
It's baby steps. And eventually you'll realize you've taken a massive giant leap.
Yeah, I think it's also the problem is that very often you want things to be perfect. And once you start building your brand and anything you do is related to the brand, so obviously you can't be really good on videos or whatever you're starting doing immediately. So many people are scared that it will damage their brand and brand reputation if they go and do Facebook Live, which is not perfect, which won't be because it will be their first or second or third, whatever it is.
Absolutely.
So, so do you think? I think that the imperfections just on the opposite sort of show vulnerability and authenticity, which is even better for the brand. So it shows that you're human too, and people resonate.
Absolutely. So I'll hold the webinars, and I'll be like, "Oh, crumbs! I've got my words in a muddle." And as long as I'm honest with that, and as long as they realize, that I am the authentic person in front of them, that actually makes it quite endearing for people. They want to see the real you. They don't want to actually have someone fake. And actually, what someone put in a Facebook group, and this is the power of building your brand, okay? So this is the proof of, I held one webinar yesterday for my clients and guest people arrived. This lady called Sue Barkley, who I've never met, and she put, I attended her online business progress webinar yesterday, and wow, what a professional lady. So clear, concise, and lovely manner. Loads of good content and all for free. I tell you, the number of times I mucked up and I was exhausted when I did it, but I showed up and people got value. And actually what we might think hasn't been 100%, actually other people out there are just like, wow, that was amazing. Thank you so much. So even if you don't think your Facebook Live is going to be great, go for it, because you will resonate with someone and you will touch the lives of someone.
Okay. Yeah, totally get that. It's I agree. So, and it's picking up so fast. It's something that eventually no one can avoid if they want to keep up with the flow, right?
Yeah, it's true. What was okay 3 years ago is now old hat. So even with Twitter, it used to be fine to grow your business purely through Twitter. You can't do it. You have to move with the times. You've got to constantly be learning about the latest things. Some people use Snapchat and Periscope. I don't use those. I've chosen to stay off those. For one, Snapchat's used by my 11-year-old, so I can't quite get my head around that as a business tool. But yeah, you have to constantly learn about new things and be aware that what you learn this year will be different next year, and you have to be able to adapt. And that adaptation will really help you build that personal brand as well.
Well, it's nice that you mentioned that you are not on every single social media platform out there, because I too think that it's better to pick just few and be good at those rather than be everywhere and be mediocre. So how do you choose which ones to be at?
So one is ones I enjoy using. Two, where I can repurpose content. So the problem with Snapchat and Periscope is you have to be live. Yeah. So if I have to be live there and I want to record a video and I need to write a blog and I need to do 101 different things to run my business, I don't have time to sit and use those all the time. So one, I'd look at which gets the biggest return for the smallest amount of work. And the other thing is, where are your ideal clients hanging out? So if I wanted to appeal to those who sit on Snapchat all day, then I would have to be on there whether I liked it or not. But actually, I get quality clients through LinkedIn. I build my tribe through Facebook. And when I go to conferences, that's also where I build my profile. But most of my clients come through conversion content, which is the live events or the webinars.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's let's touch just before we leave, before we wrap up. Let's touch about the live events as well, because there are many entrepreneurs who are relying purely on the online side of the things, and I think they're missing out a lot because live events and networking and meeting people in real life is very important. So how do you? I mean, do you think that part? I mean, it's bringing any value to the business and the growth and the brand itself, or the live events?
If they're done properly, I am a real stickler, so I won't even send an email out if it's not on brand. I get really annoyed when I see other people in my business using language that I don't think is on brand. So if they're done properly and they position you well, then do them. If you can't afford to do a high-end event and your business is all about being high-end, then find another way. Can you be a speaker at somebody else's event to position yourself? One thing that's very, very popular at the moment in London is lots of meetups where they're free to go along, and they're exactly the same. They're all held in the same kind of area, the same kind of place, and they're just churning out information. And I don't think they're great for anyone's brand. So look at who your ideal client is. Look at how you want to position yourself. And if you can't afford to hold a proper event, then just be a speaker at a proper event. And then as your business grows, put on some really nice, slick events in nice venues that position you well in the marketplace and already raise up your profile just by being there.
Oh yeah, being a speaker also sort of brings in so much to the brand. It brings to your credibility, and then it's easier to get other speaking gigs once you land the first one. So
absolutely,
I totally agree with that. Okay, so I think it was very useful interview. So there are loads of takeaways that we can have at the end, and I will have some in the show notes as well. If you have to wrap it up, like in one general, most important advice for someone who is just starting out, what would you advise?
Share value consistently. That would be it. So give lots and lots of value all the time, and people will see you as the expert and they will come to you eventually. But it won't take weeks. It will take months or even years.
Yeah, it's not a sprint, it's a
It's a
marathon.
marathon, and it's exhausting, and your legs will ache.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Well, thank you very much for coming over. I truly enjoyed the interview. Thanks a
Yes, so did I.
lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, darling.
Okay, so it seems like that's all that I had for you today. But I wanted to share with you that I've been at the London Book Fair last week and I met many interesting people, and it provoked loads of thoughts that I will be sharing with you in a separate podcast solo short episode coming soon. And I have been into live streaming a lot these days as well. So make sure you follow me on social media, on Facebook and Instagram. Find me there. And I'm sure that you will be having loads of different live stream formats in case you enjoy watching videos. So that's it from me today. I hope you enjoyed the interview. Thanks a lot once again for listening to the podcast. If you have time, please make sure that you subscribe to it and you leave a review on iTunes, because it really will help me grow further. As for now, just thank you. Have a great week ahead. Have a really nice and productive days ahead. And I really hope that you'll be back for our next episode. Take care.